Welcome into Inside 44 with Alex Alexandrou. My name is John Zaglow, Communications Manager here at the City of Aurora, and today we have a roundtable discussion. We're bringing back the roundtable format for a very special episode as we talk all things 2025 Special Census. We're going to get to introductions first. Of course, the namesake of the program, he is the Chief Management Officer for the City of Aurora. He's a 25-year City of Aurora veteran, Alex Alexandrou. Great to see you.
Thank you, John. Great to see you. Always great to be with you.
Always great to be with you, too. And also from the mayor's office, our Deputy Chief of Staff. She's been with the city for 15 years, and she's really hitting the ground running with the Special Census Initiative. Alex Voigt is here as well. Alex, good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
A combined 40 years of City of Aurora municipal experience. And we really need that experience here today as we talk about the Special Census, such an important initiative here in the city. I think we should start with the beginning. Why is Aurora completing a special census in 2025?
Thank you, John. Well, we really would rather not be here and rather not be talking about a special census, but for what occurred after the 2020 regular decennial census. And unfortunately, that census resulted in a significant loss of population, approximately 17,000 individuals at the conclusion of that special census. So certainly not the result that had been repeatedly predicted, and something that just took us by complete surprise.
AV, how do you think this undercount ended up happening? Because I know that, there are a couple of things that the census did differently in 2020 compared to years past. So does that account for Aurora's big loss in population?
There's no easy answer to that. And we've spent, honestly, the past 4 years looking into various options and things that we think happened. And we've narrowed it down to our top three. So the first would be the COVID-19 pandemic. It's indisputable that had an impact on the outcome of the census. The second would be the debate surrounding the addition of a question to the census survey that I think caused a lot of concern in terms of individuals responding. And then the third is the brand new and untested privacy filter that the Census Bureau implemented, differential privacy. We think that ultimately had a significant impact on our outcomes and outcomes for mid-sized cities throughout the U.S.
I think those three kind of created the perfect storm. COVID, obviously, people very afraid of opening their doors to strangers or making that type of contact. But that citizenship question, even though ultimately it got resolved and was not part of it, we think the damage had already been done. And especially given our community, we think that had a very significant influence in people not responding.
And the unfortunate part is, by losing approximately 17,000 people, that takes a big hit from a city perspective. I mean, the impact from losing that many people, according to the 2020 census, hurts the city financially, and that's really tough.
It's a massive hit to the city. It's a massive hit to any city, but especially one our size. We're talking approximately $43 million lost over the 10-year period. AV reminded me it actually breaks down to about $250 a person, roughly. And so when you consider that times 17,000, that's a lot of money for the city to lose and a significant number to make up over that 10-year period.
Absolutely. And, that money that comes in terms of the census, it's used for a lot of important projects within the city, infrastructure, special events. So not having that funding really hurts city operations over time. And, as the community expands, it's going to be harder and harder for the city to take care of its community when that money's not coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, 17,000 people is almost an entire city ward. Our wards are about 20,000 people. So according to the Census Bureau, we lost an entire ward. But to your point, the impact to our daily operations over time will certainly be felt, and sacrifices will have to be made elsewhere. So our goal is to not get to that point.
And let me just add, over these 4 years, we have scoured every objective factor or measure we could look at to try and figure out, did we in fact lose 17,000 people? So the finding overwhelmingly is we did not. Our water billing is on the rise in terms of number of account holders. We would have seen a significant drop there. We did not have any record numbers of foreclosures or demolitions or abandoned properties. And in fact, we've added so much around the city. Pretty much there's development going on in all corners of the city. The thing to remind folks of the importance, one of the most important things is, every year that goes by, we lose roughly $4.3 million. Mm-hmm. That's $4.3 million, and to date we've lost $10 million and counting until we get the special census done, the return certified, and we literally rush it down to Springfield to get it into the treasurer so that they can stop the losses. But that's money away from roads, bridges, lead service lines, and that money has to come from somewhere over time. If we're going to continue to do those types of projects, that means without the census money coming in, we have to find it elsewhere in our budget or elsewhere in grant money or whatever. That's very competitive, and something has to give. So if we start moving money around in the budget, I know in a past podcast we talked about the budget, we don't have everything to do all the things we need in one calendar year, and so it just puts us severely behind the eight ball, and we will not get that $10 million back. There's no retro payment with the census. So the sooner we get this done, the better, and we report it and we stop, and then we will at least stop the losses for the rest of the decade till the next regular millennial census in 2030.
And that's such a good point, because let's say Aurora didn't do a special census. We're going into 2030 with a 17,000 person gap.
Correct.
You have to make that up and then hope to find new people by 2030. So by doing the special census now, you could help to recover some people and then have a good number going into 2030.
Yeah, absolutely. If the way that we've constructed our map, which I know we'll talk a little bit more about later, but we're fortunate, we were hoping to have our special census wrapped up by 2025. But at this point, it actually has turned out to be a benefit because we have so many new developments that are online and people are living there. So we'll be, if anything, it's a good mid census. It's a review all around, I guess, for lack of a better word.
About halfway through the decade, right? But the other takeaway that I really want people to understand is this process actually will benefit the city long term, not just for hopefully recapturing money and people, but we're putting in a new level of civic engagement. We've got Jamie Lee from our Harvard Fellow. She's spearheading a cross-departmental team where we're really engaging the public, and we're going into the special census tracts that are part of our map. And that's going to lay the foundation for future, even beyond 2030. Mm-hmm. So if none of us are here after that, we'll leave behind a really good process for people to follow for future census projects. So it's exciting for us to be able to do that as a positive byproduct of this.
And one thing that I think is important to know too, and people always wonder, why did these numbers go down? It's not necessarily the city's fault that we lost 17,000 people. At the end of the day, from what I recall, the self-response rate was really high in 2020. A lot of people were getting out and doing a good job here in City Hall. So it's important to note that it's not the city's fault. The city's trying to recapture money that unfortunately the census just didn't count.
I mean, we had, over 70% self-response rate?
We had a 72%. It was 2% higher than in 2010. So we were feeling good about the self-response. And then, unfortunately, the impact of COVID hit when we were starting the door-to-door portion. But, the mayor's office and a number of city departments went door-to-door during COVID, knocking on doors, asking people if they completed the special census. And in terms of fault, we had a very dynamic group of city leaders and community leaders at the table. We had civic organizations that were contracted through grants to support the census. So it's not the one thing that we all can agree on is that there's not one single factor that led to our outcomes, and it's certainly not a matter of fault, to your point. It's just it's a mystery.
We're determined to solve it, and,
Yes.
and we're working with the Census Bureau. You know, we're spending roughly $1 million that the council authorized to do this. We've got a lot of things kicked off ahead of the actual launch. We have an office established over at the old West Suburban Bank building at New York and Lake Street. That'll be the hub of activity. So it's just going to be now executing the plan and getting the word out. And I feel like we're off to a great start. We really are.
Absolutely. Let's get into some details about the special census, when it begins, and what people can do to be a part of this process. So in terms of details first, when does this start and who can participate?
So the internet self-response period begins February 3rd, and that's when the first mailing will leave the post office in Indiana. That's a very important point they'd asked us to make. So February 3rd through March 7th, addresses within the special census area will receive 4 mailers, 2 letters, then 2 postcards. Each letter will have a unique 12-digit code, as well as the web address where the special census survey can be completed. It takes about 10 minutes, very few questions. So we're really hopeful that the internet self-response rate will be very successful.
So individuals will get 4 mailings, and the ID that AV talks about is unique to the person. Mm-hmm. And they can only get it from those 4 mailings. And the first 2, like she said, will be letters. And we'll have on our website, and I think we're going to show some examples what these look like. Mm-hmm. And then after the 2 letters, there will be 2 postcards. So you just really need that unique ID. You go on the website, like AV said, less than 10 minutes. We're also going to help facilitate in the community with our outreach for folks that may not have ready access to the internet. We're going to be throughout the community at different days and times and locations, and here at City Hall as well, having laptops, iPads, computers ready to help people do it. It's important to note on the privacy situation, the city has no access at all to the website or to the database. That's all the United States Census Bureau. They guard that zealously. There are very few questions being asked, and this is simply the requirement to count everyone. Mm-hmm. Regardless of citizenship, regardless of anything else, they're just trying to count everyone. And that magic date is everyone in Aurora as of March 15th of this year. Correct. And so I know some people have asked that. So we're just imploring people, pay attention to your mail, look for this unique ID for yourself, respond quickly and accurately, and then you're done.
Yep.
It's the actual enumerators who will come door to door are really going to be out looking for folks who don't respond to the internet response. So last time we were chasing, say, 28%, even though we know I don't think there's ever been 100% count of a census, but you aim high, right? So they were looking for a significant number of additional folks, and unfortunately we didn't get it last time. But I'm very confident this time around. Thankfully, there's no COVID, there's no special question that should cloud people and concern them. And we're going to do our very best to educate people from now throughout the process on why it's important.
IB, I want to turn this conversation to you because not the entire city
Correct.
Is going to necessarily be counted. Certain wards, certain areas will have the map on screen for people to understand it. If you go to the website, the Your Voice website that we have set up in English and Spanish, you can actually type in your address, see if you're in the area or not. So that's nice. But why is it that not every single portion of the city is going to be counted, but instead these specific areas?
Sure. So our initial plan, I'm going to go back for a minute before I answer your question. Our initial plan was we were going to conduct 2 special censuses. We had planned to do what we considered to be a recount of some of our well-established historic neighborhoods, which showed a loss according to the 2020 census. And then we were going to do a second in probably 2026 or 2027 to capture only new development. Well, that's when we learned about a new requirement as of the 2020 census that it requires what's referred to as contiguity. So you have to have a central point. You have to have an entire census tract that is located wholly within the governmental unit, and then every other census tract that you want to count as part of the special area has to be contiguous. So they all have to be attached. So when you look at the map of the special census area, it's we look at it as a work of art. Our GIS department got very creative and did an outstanding job, but it is an interesting pattern. But again, bearing in mind it has to be rooted in that one full census tract, which does happen to be in our general downtown area, and everything has to be attached from there. And the special census does touch all 10 wards within the city of Aurora. Obviously, some larger than others, but it is in all 10 wards.
And it was quite the effort by GIS and our team. I don't know if it was a dozen or more iterations of the map going back and forth, literally getting granular down to the blocks as best we could. We had some field work to make sure, and we tried to also capture this time around, to combine what AV was saying earlier about the initial thought of 2. We thought, all right, let's go back and recount certain critical areas, but let's also try and capture new development.
Yep.
So that's why you see there are very thin connections at time, heading especially eastward towards Fox Valley Mall and other areas. But nonetheless, they meet the criteria of contiguity from that one central point. And so the whole connected map, we believe, gives us our best shot at recapturing the numbers we need. And that's what that $1 million expense is going for. You know, it's going for staff, it's going for print expenses, digital expenses, advertising, the whole project. In fact, we have a project code linked, very aptly named Census. We get very creative on the third floor. But nonetheless, it's the map that we think gives us our best shot. And the fact that it involves all 10 wards, we're getting great traction from dealing with our alderpersons to go out and promote this through their own websites, their own activities, their neighborhood meetings, their ward meetings, whatever the case may be. So that's what we're all trying to row in that same direction to get to that final number when it's all said and done.
Well, to that point, I think, in my opinion, it's smarter to do one special census, get the areas that may have been undercounted, but also include all those new developments, because there's so much going on here in this city. You think about the 6th Ward, the Redwood area, that might be counted. You know, all the apartments here, the Fox Valley Mall. There are so many new developments going on right this second that could end up being counted and make a big difference.
And you're spot on, John. And AV and Jamie and the team have already had great conversations with HOAs. They've met with ownership, developers. So again, unfortunately, March 15th is right around the corner, but we're very confident we're capturing a significant number of already occupied apartment units. And in fact, the other day, I think you guys were out at Fox Valley Mall at, I forget which development, but somebody asked who are new residents to Aurora, and I think most people raised their hands.
Oh, that was at Del Webb.
Or I'm sorry, that was at Del Webb. Mm-hmm. So this is also a way for the city to, again, engage residents directly. They can learn about the city as well as learn about the importance of the special census. And when we connect the dots for folks in terms of what this money is going to be used for, the shame of losing it when it's completely avoidable, but for action that people can take, not a tremendous amount of time or effort, I think we're getting some positive feedback from people. I think they're appreciative that we're doing this rather than not doing it at all.
Well, and consider the investment. Like you said, $1.1 million could turn into, if it's successful, 4.3 per year for the rest of the decade. I mean,
Correct.
in that sense, it's not a bad investment at all to put that money in now and then hopefully reap that benefit.
Right. 100%. Correct.
Let's talk about the importance of responding and kind of what residents need to be doing in terms of getting ready for it. So, AB, I'll start with you. Why should residents respond to this special census? Why should they take the time to do this when they get those mailings?
So this is a question that Jamie would, when she was out in the neighborhoods talking to people, they would say, well, what's in it for me? And to be honest, it is a little bit of a challenging question because the direct impact it's not something that you think about. You know, when you turn on your faucet and the water runs, you flush your toilet, you're able to drive to work and your street is plowed, there's no potholes. But the other significant component of that, and the reason that we wanted to really tie together the community engagement strategy, is we want to know who is in our community. We can't build programs and outreach and organization and those sorts of things if we don't know who's here. So those are the conversations. It's not a simple answer, but those are the conversations we've been having with folks. And really, it's about participating in your community. You're a member of your community. We want to know that you're here, and we want to make sure that you are counted.
I mean, every resident of the city of Aurora is entitled to these funds, period. And the fact that, but for their participation or lack of response, to let that stay in the hands of the federal government when we have significant needs for it. And we know over time, if we don't get it, it puts more pressure on our budget and our taxpayers who, you know, these are not frivolous things that we're using the money on. I mean, roads and bridges and lead service lines, these all impact people's quality of life. And if we have to take general funds or other proprietary funds to replace these lost funds, that's going to be a problem long term. It's not really sustainable, and something's got to give. And so that's why we're working so hard to make sure people understand these are short-term and long-term benefits and consequences of participating.
And from the sense of the community, you don't have to be a citizen to participate in the census. No. Nor is there going to be a question about citizenship, period. So it's pretty important for all of Aurora. Even if you're just here and you're not a citizen, it's okay. There's going to be no consequences, and you could respond and be a part of the community and get your response noted. Correct.
If you live in Aurora, you're a member of our community, and we want you counted.
And that's City of Aurora.
Correct.
Not township or any other unincorporated areas. You have to be a City of Aurora resident. So I do want to talk about some job opportunities too before we finish up. We're undergoing a significant push right now. We've been for a little bit to hire some much needed positions for the special census. They would not be employees of the City of Aurora. They'd be employees of the Census Bureau. And so we've got, and I think we're going to be sharing the links and the details of the various jobs. We've got, like I mentioned earlier, the central office will be just off downtown at Lake Street and New York at that corner, the former West Suburban Bank. But I think we should talk about some of the positions that are available, and then maybe get into some of the job fairs that are being pushed right now.
Sure. So there are 3 job positions that are detailed on the city's Your Voice website. And the one that we need the most people for is the door-to-door, the enumerators. And these will be the people...
They're called field representatives?
Yes. Yeah. So these are the people that will be going door-to-door following the internet self-response rate to visit the households that did not respond. So we are targeting, our number that we were given was just about 200 people. And it's just a really interesting process because, as Alex said, we had to pay upfront for the privilege of hosting a special census, and then we also are responsible for recruiting people to apply to work for the Census Bureau. So to support those efforts, we have hosted 2 job fairs. I believe there is another one today. All of the information, again, is on the Your Voice website. And we will be hosting additional job fairs if you have questions or need help filling out the job application. But it's not required to attend the job fair. That's just something that we're offering if you need assistance or have questions.
And I think you could sign up at the job fairs too, right?
You can. The
Yeah.
job fair, we have
Correct.
laptops available. People are there
Correct.
to help you fill out your application.
And I think, we really want to target, I know we're coming off a very successful holiday season and holiday employment. So I know there are quite a few folks who probably are finishing up, if they haven't already done so, maybe their holiday employment. But this is an opportunity for folks to continue at very competitive wages. We're looking, I think, ending this early June. So it would be a significant, 5 or 6 month engagement for people. In addition to the field reps, there are some office clerical positions. And then I think they were interviewing for some manager positions.
Some supervisory roles. Yep.
So we really encourage retired folks who have an itch to give back to the community, folks who are looking for holiday, maybe some part-time moms or dads who maybe work from home but don't have have some time. We really want to get the word out about employment because it's critical. We can't do it without these positions. Yep. We're utilizing city employees up until, but we really can't use city employees to be, for example, field reps. But we are certainly using a whole group of city staff to go out and raise the awareness, educate people about the census, and help facilitate getting them into the process. And I think the enumerators, it's if you like working outdoors, you're a people person, this is like right up your alley because you're going to be meeting fellow residents. You don't have to be a City of Aurora resident. I mean, I think it'll help for familiarity, but they're not going to turn anybody away who's not a city resident. But think about that opportunity. And again, the amount of work they're going to have to do is really going to depend on that internet self-response. So if that's a high number like last time, then I think the target's a little more manageable. But AV, talk about what they told us in terms of enumerator effort once they're out in the field reps, once they're out and launched.
Sure. So if you do not respond during the internet self-response period, the enumerators will come to your home 3 times at various times of day. And if they are unable to speak to you, they will try to speak to your neighbors, try to obtain information about who lives in the house to get as accurate an idea as possible. So they start to look at by proxy.
But it's not as much who, it's how many too. I mean, at the end of the day, we just need to know how many people are in each home.
But again, the easiest way is the internet self-response.
Correct, just respond. So if you don't want to open your door to a field rep, please respond on the internet, and that takes all of 10 minutes, and you're done. And the one thing different, I know some people have asked about differences from a regular census to now. I think one of the key differences is we as a city don't have access to those ID numbers. We can't, like in the past, people have been able to call and say, hey, I didn't get my packet, and you could find your number. Here, we're completely shut out of it. So it's really between each individual resident and the Census Bureau, period. So that's why it's so critical to look for those letters, look for those postcards. I think we're going to be showing some examples of them and where the number is. And that's all you need other than internet access to respond, because you won't need those numbers for the enumerators, for the field reps. You only need it for the internet.
And if anybody wants to apply to those special census jobs, we'll make sure to put a link in the description of the video, but the URL is www.aurora-il.org/special census jobs. That simple. Put the link in the video as well in the description in case anybody needs it. Yeah, all those positions are available. And as you mentioned, a competitive pay for a 6-month contract.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good job.
Very good.
Yep. So, okay, we're going to wrap up today's episode here. But I want one parting question. I'll start with you, AV. I'll let AA get the final word. How important is the special census to the future of this city?
It's funny because I think we're using words like critical and game-changing and essential, but in this instance, all of those words apply. For us to be grappling with the idea of losing 17,000 people when, as we've talked about, we know that that is not in fact the case, the ability for us to have an accurate count of our residents, but also know who's here and know what the needs are so we're able to adequately address those so that we have the funding available to adequately address them. That's our job. And without us having that information, we're unable to serve the residents of Aurora the way that we work every day to. So this is a critical endeavor. We are very excited to be underway, and we are very appreciative of all of the residents and individuals who have volunteered, who have reached out, who have asked questions, who are supporting this effort and helping us spread the word. And we appreciate you having us on today.
I mean, the importance of this, I don't think we can overstate it, especially when you go back to how much this city has grown over the last 30 years, and everything that was predicted by a number of different sources leading up to the 2020 census, to have this inexplicable downturn really cries out for a correction. And I think the city council, the mayor, supported the staff's work in getting it to this point. You know, we availed ourselves of every option the census gave us to try and not get to this point, but unfortunately, we had to recommend a special census. So the fact is, we have a chance to level set this, or come as close as we can, if not, God willing, exceed a number, and then really set the city up for 2030, 2040, where there is anticipated greater growth. As you can see, we still have parts of the city that can be developed. You see what's happening in the downtown with older buildings being refreshed and renewed as living units, right, for people. And so all of these need to be counted. And we are assured that we have a safe method of counting people. The data is secure. The city has no access to it. The only purpose of this data and people's responding is for purposes of counting how many people are in Aurora. And then that triggers a huge financial benefit for the city that we can use to cover the critical infrastructure needs. So I don't think it can be overstated enough. I think people are going to hear it repeatedly from the city and from community members who are out there. So we need folks to spread the word. This is coming. They need to take care of their business by responding, and then having family and friends, co-workers who live in the city to do the same. And I think we'll be just fine. It's going to be a little work. We're going to try and make it fun. There's going to be some TV ads and some outreach, but at the end of the day, we're trying to give people the facts, the data, and the evidence to respond appropriately. So I know January 30th, we're looking at doing a census kickoff event, and then there will be other announcements and staff going to community centers and more HOAs. So this is going to be a real grassroots effort to get people to respond.
That's the final word. Alex Alexandrou and Alex Voigt, thank you both for joining me here today. 40 years of government experience. I had to say it one more time.
Yes, sir.
Because it is impressive.
You enjoy saying that.
I do, because
Yeah.
the wealth of knowledge that is in this room as it pertains to the census is unmatched.
Good
frankly.
thing we were teenagers when we started. We were child prodigies.
Yeah.
Thank you both for joining
Thank
me.
you.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
Inside 44 with Alex Alexandrou. Please fill out that special census when it comes through. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching, everybody.